Thursday Night Football, we have an NFC West matchup. We have the LA Rams traveling to San Francisco to play the 49ers, who absolutely shellacked the Chicago Bears. I figured that the Bears might win outright. I was dead wrong. But we have the Rams, who had the victory over the Bills, and then the 49ers are coming in with a victory over the Bears. Is in San Francisco. So huge NFC West implications. If the 49ers can come out with a victory here, essentially they move into second place in the NFC West, and it strengthens their opportunity to maybe get close to the NFC West crown, which is being held right now by the Seahawks. Looks like the 49ers are favored here by 3. Again, this is at home. I will say, though, again, earlier this season, kind of where the beginning part of the 49ers season started to going awry was with the loss to the LA Rams. And again, it was on a last second field goal. And that was the first that was the first divisional loss by the 49ers. I will say, though, as much as I think that the Rams and the Niners here are going to give them their best, Thursday Night Football typically favors the team that has better offense. And it doesn't necessarily play into defenses because they're beat up, and it's a lot harder for them to make stops because it's harder for them to come around on recovery time. What I will say, though, with the 49ers, how injury riddled that they have been, again, coming off of a short week, I think offensively they can hang with the Rams. I think the Rams, though, they're riding hot, and my opinion, I like their weapons better right now than the 49ers. And it's only because the 49ers do not have Brandon Ayuk. They are not going to have Christian McCaffrey. They are not going to have Jordan Mason. The Rams are kind of coming in here healthy, and they just came off a really good close victory against the Bills, who are a playoff-bound team. The Bears are not a playoff-bound team. They are a team that are kind of, I wouldn't say a rebuild, but they have a rookie quarterback. They're probably going to have a top 15 pick. So the 49ers were kind of built to play them hard. I'm going to go with the Rams to win outright here. I like Matthew Stafford. I like that the Rams are probably have the momentum on their side to make really this push. And again, I think, you want to blame it on these 49ers injuries. They're not going to have Trent Williams, of course, who's still out because of the loss of his newborn. So 49ers are coming in, again, shorthanded, and it's not their fault. It's just how it is. And I think the Rams are going to win outright on this game. Next game here, we have the Dolphins traveling to Houston, playing the Texans. Houston is favored by 3. I think this is interesting because the Dolphins are kind of coming in. They did have a victory against the Jets, which I love to see. And they have been, hitting a little bit of a stride now that Tua has been back. Houston, though, has been stumbling a little bit. I had forecasted that they were going to be one of the top teams in the AFC. They do not like anything like that. They are a middle of the pack, if that. And if anything, I'm actually concerned that they are they're the weakest of the AFC teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs. Like, I'm so unconfident with them that let's just, again, assume that the Bengals sneak their way into the playoffs by hook or by crook. And let's say one of their first matchups is against Houston. I think Houston would be at risk of losing that game because I don't know if they can keep up with the Bengals, even though, again, you would assume differently because they have CJ Stroud. They have Nico Collins back. They still have Tank Dell. Joe Mixon is still there. Now, they did lose Stephon Diggs for the season. They just seem to be underperforming considering what they did last season. So with that being said, I think I'm going to still ride with Texas. I think the Houston Texans are going to outlast the Dolphins. I think this is a game where they get some confidence in beating a really good AFC team. So I have the Texans on this one, and I have them going over on the points. It's at 3, so I have them winning more by 3. Next game, this is probably one of the games of the week that's coming up for week 15. We have the Bills traveling to Detroit, playing in the Dome against the Lions. Lions are favored by 2.5 points. This is probably the one of the Super Bowl previews that we have coming up this weekend, which is such a fun matchup. Again, Josh Allen and the Bills going up against Jared Goff and that dynamic offense and that really good defense in Detroit. Again, Detroit's favored by 2.5 points. This is a tough one. I think Detroit comes out on the over. And I mean by the over, like they're probably going to win by a field goal or more, because I think that they just have too much for the Bills to withstand. They have obviously, Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles. I don't know how they're going to stop that, that combo, that rushing duo. Jared Goff being protected by one of the top offensive line in the entire NFL, I think is going to be really tough for the Bills to really penetrate and get to Goff. And I think he's just playing with such confidence, and the Lions and Ben Johnson just has this team really calling a great game. And I just think that the Bills, licking their wounds still from the loss against the Rams, I think Josh Allen, they're going to put up a fight. This might be a shootout more than, a defensive struggle, but I see here that the Lions are going to win this game, and I see them going over on the point spread. A second matchup here, which could be argued game of the week as well. You have the Steelers traveling to Philadelphia. Philadelphia looks like it's favored here by 5.5 points, which I'm actually a little bit surprised that the spread's about that much. But again, one of the top AFC teams going up against one of the top NFC teams, again, could be a Super Bowl preview for all we know. I'm surprised by Philadelphia's point spread here. Some of the things about this week with Philadelphia coming out with, again, Brandon Graham coming out on a podcast and saying that there's issues with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and now all that squash, we're good. And, we had the whole Nick Sirianni controversy earlier this week when he was, talking back to his fans early in the week, shaved his head, all this other stuff. I think this is the week where, even though it's in Philadelphia, I think this is the week where the Eagles can get got.
Drew Code Sports Talk is supported by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your go-to app for tickets, making it super easy to find the best deals. They even rate each ticket deal on a scale of 1 to 10, so you're getting your money's worth. And as a special thank you to our listeners, we've got a promo code just for you. Use Drew Code at checkout to get $20 off your first order. That's $20 off your first purchase, whether it's for the game that you've been dying to see or that concert that everybody is talking about. Head over to SeatGeek now, find your perfect seat, and use Drew Code for $20 off your first order. SeatGeek, get your tickets to the action today.
I actually have the Steelers winning this game outright, even though it's in Philadelphia. The reason why, I trust the coaching of the Pittsburgh Steelers more than the coaching of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, Nick Fangio is the DC coordinator right now for the Eagles. Yes, Kellen Moore is the OC for this Eagles team. The Eagles team, though, is coming up against a defensive front with the Pittsburgh Steelers and TJ Watt. It is a game-wrecking defensive front. Secondary is a little questionable, but with the issues that Philadelphia offense is having with getting the ball out, with all the weapons that they have, by the way, makes me wonder how they're going to be able to stop the Steelers defense. Now, I'm not saying that, the Steelers are going to pitch a shutout, but I do think that we can see Jalen Hurts having a couple of turnovers. Saquon Barkley will probably have his lowest rushing total of the season because, truth be told, this is probably one of the tougher matchups that the Eagles will play, not only offensively, but defensively. And I just think the Steelers come in here, no drama. They have all the momentum. And I think that they are going to be the ones that are going to come out and really put their stamp on. They are the team in that town that's going to walk out of there. I think the Eagles have a lot of noise coming out of their team internally, which is kind of weird considering that, they're an 11-2 team. They shouldn't have any drama. They shouldn't have any noise. And yet they have all this ruckus coming out of there, and it's very distracting, very concerning. So all that being said, I see the Pittsburgh Steelers here coming out and just winning outright in Philadelphia, even though Philadelphia has the 5.5 point, spread in their favor. I think the Steelers are going to come out and claim victory and win outright in this one. And then the next one, this is just more AFC implications and, NFC South implications as well. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to LA to play the Chargers. Chargers are favored by 3 here. Depends if the Chargers can get back Ladd Conkley. I think then the Chargers look really, really good. the Buccaneers maybe have a lot more to play for just because they are in a position where they're kind of jockeying for position against the Falcons. They did come off of a good win against the Raiders, in Tampa. So we'll see how that all shakes out. If I had to say, I think I would have the Chargers coming on top in this one. I have them going over on the points in this one. A lot of the reasons why I like the coaching a little bit better. I think the defense is going to give Tampa Bay a little bit more issues for especially that pass front with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield threw 2 interceptions to the Raiders. I feel like the Chargers pass front, obviously healthier. I like them a little bit more in this matchup. And I think the Chargers can come out of here going over on the spread of that 3-point favoritism there. And then we have Sunday Night Football. We have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Seattle playing the Seahawks, which I think is very interesting because Seahawks need this win against Green Bay to continue their lead on the NFC West. And essentially, if they can get this win and pull themselves to 9-5, they'd essentially, for all intents and purposes, almost clinch the division, at least away from the 49ers, if there was to be, a tie between the Niners and the Rams after Thursday Night Football. And then the Packers really need this to kind of stay relevant within the NFC and not falter and lose out on one of those wild card positions. Because right now where they're at, I think they're in the wild card 2 spot. So if they lose, and that kind of gives maybe the Commanders a little bit more room to climb up and get a higher seed. And I don't think the Packers are going to lose out on a playoff spot, but you don't ever want to go into the playoffs not having momentum on your side. So Packers are favored in this one by 3, even though it's in Seattle. I think I like those numbers, and I'm going to trust in that. I think even though they had a tough loss against Detroit, they did kind of have a mini bye, kind of get themselves on the other side of feeling healthy, get them a pretty good game plan against this Seahawks team. I'm curious to see how the Seahawks respond, if they can continue on this streak that they've been on. But again, Seahawks have been kind of suspect all year. So I trust the Packers a little bit more. So I have the Packers to go over on this point spread here. And then we have one of 2 Monday Night Football games. We have the Chicago Bears traveling to Minnesota, going against the Vikings. Vikings are favored by 7 points. I know that Drew, normally that would make him a little bit worried, but what I would say is, with all the issues that we understand about Chicago and with all the momentum going into Minnesota, I think I would take the over on the points for Minnesota playing against Chicago, going to Minnesota. I think Minnesota just has all this momentum. They essentially would be leading the division if the Lions, had another loss. And in theory, let's say the Bills do knock off the Lions, they would essentially be tied with the Minnesota Vikings. So I see Minnesota here coming out with some urgency and doing what they can to get them the best position that they can. Because assuming the Lions hold the divisional crown where they're at today, the Vikings are going to be in a position where they're going to be fighting for the number 1 wildcard spot, which means they're going to be playing, I believe it's the 2nd seed in the NFC, whoever that might be. So that would be a very interesting matchup. And I think they're going to, again, want that momentum on their side and all those other factors. So I like Minnesota, even though it's 7 points, it's a little much with how the Bears played against the 49ers. I think Minnesota is on the level with the Niners. I think maybe even a little bit better. So I think Minnesota has this one. So I'm going to take the over on the points for Minnesota. And then this one is actually very interesting. Falcons coming to Vegas to play the Raiders. Falcons are favored by 4 points. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Kirk Cousins has not thrown a touchdown in 4 games, 8 quarters. And I think he's actually thrown 8 interceptions in that same time frame. So just a little interesting note. However, again, the Raiders did play Tampa Bay. They lost, I believe it's 28-14, I think is the score. We did lose AOC for the foreseeable future to a bone bruise in his knee. So Desmond Ridder is essentially having a revenge game against the Falcons. I don't know what we have in Desmond Ridder. I don't know. Would I like to see my Raiders win this game? Yes. Should they? No. We have the number 1 pick right now. If we hold this number 1 pick, we are probably going to draft Shedeur Sanders. For all intents and purposes, that's what the Raiders want to do. Even if you're a Raiders fan and you would much rather have Cam Ward. Okay, great. We still don't know, though, if we had if we had the number 2 pick, let's just play this out. If we had the number 2 pick, and assuming the Giants had the first overall pick, we do not know if they're going to go Shore Sanders or Cam Ward, and who knows what quarterback the Raiders would prefer. At this point right now, with the number 1 pick, we hold our destiny in our hands. So yeah, I would love to look competitive. Like the last few games, our defense has been playing really well. We've been getting after the quarterback. We've created turnovers. We fight hard, and then it looks like the scoreboard shows that we're a worse team than what we showed on the field, and yet we're currently holding the number 1 pick. I do think that the Falcons overall win this game. Would I love to say that the Raiders cover? I would love to say that, but the last few games have shown that that's not the case. So I have the Falcons going over in points. Is this the game I'd love to be wrong and be able to hold my chest out high for the Raiders beating the Falcons? Yes, because I feel like the momentum has gone away from the Falcons, and they're getting into a level now where maybe it's time to think about throwing in Michael Penix Jr. to see if they can jumpstart their playoff hopes, because Kirk Cousins' mania was looking real good early in the season, but now he's kind of come back down to earth. And you have, a rookie quarterback that you drafted, I think, 10th overall. Is it time to put him in? I think is a big question. The Raiders were so injury riddled on both sides of the ball, literally running a 4th string running back in Sincere McCoy. No, wait. Is that his name? Sincere McCormick, I think is his last name. Very good running back, by the way. So I don't mean to disrespect by not knowing his name, but point being is we're so injury riddled that that's where we're at. So I think that the Falcons in this one are going to win, and they're going to go over the 4-point spread. So